Welcome on Texas Football. I'm Bobby Burton, joined by Gerry Hamilton and Rod Babers. Time, guys, for this week's State of the Program. We're going to be tackling where the Texas offense is just 10 days away from going to Columbus. And it has been a big topic of conversation in the offseason, not just starting at quarterback with Arch Manning, but the health of C.J. Baxter, the late injury here to Trevor Goosby. Who are going to be the wide receivers? What about the transfer tight end? I mean, it is a big plate of question marks, but also we believe some solutions. We're going to talk about where we think the Texas offense is in this episode of State of the Program. Thank you to Adam Lowy of LoweyLawFirm.com for being a sponsor of On Texas Football. All right, Gerry, you and I talked, and Rod and I have talked. Where do you think the Texas offense is, the strengths and weaknesses? Not just perception, but where you think they truly are right now.
Well, I think one of the strengths is having two receivers back that started in the college football playoff in Wingo and DeAndre Moore. So let's start with that. And that always helps a first-time starting quarterback on the road, having two guys that have really big game experience. But beyond that, I think running back is turning out to be a strength of this team headed into the season because of Cedric Baxter's return and Christian Clark's return, and even a freshman, James Simon. We're hearing good things about him. So the depth of running back last year we thought was a disaster headed into the season. Much better now. And then tight end, I think, has really blossomed. And I'm interested to see what Rod's thoughts are on this. But Jack injuries, you knew he's going to be really good coming in. Jordan Washington off the injuries had done some really good things. Spencer Shannon improved heading into year 3 as an inline tight end. Then you have a freshman like Nick Townsend who has caught some eyes with just his speed and playmaking. So I really think those are the things I'm looking at right now as the strengths of this offense headed into the season, or the things that have the least questions.
What about you, Rod? You take your overall take kind of from a 30,000-foot view of the Texas offense.
Yeah, I can just hear Sark right now talking about complimentary football.
Yeah.
And, you also return 1,000-yard back. You're talking about the running backs could end up being, a strength of this offense. And I do wonder if Sark will lean on that defense. If it's as good as we all expect it to be. Last year, it surprised them a little bit. Maybe they probably knew it was going to be good. I don't know if they knew it would be a top 5 defense in the country. This year, it's expected to be that good. And I almost wonder, philosophically, if they will lean more on, and a good running game always complements a great defense. And I almost wonder if they will try to lean on that and play some complementary football rather than the offense, developing its own identity initially. I think one of the things that, Sark is going to look at is some of the liabilities potentially on offense, the offensive line, the lack of continuity there on the offensive line. You do have, we know Arch is going to be great, but he is an inexperienced quarterback, and every inexperienced quarterback has some growing pains, and a good running game will also, affect that as well. So I do wonder, if the running game will have more, be more of a featured item in this offense than we expect to be. I think mostly because the defense is good. Your special teams expect to be really good again. So I know I'm mentioning all the phases, but I keep hearing Sark talk about complementary football. I think that's what he's going to try to play to get quality wins.
So when you talk about if I'm understanding this correctly, when you talk about the Texas offense, you're talking really about two different aspects. You're talking about the offense that they need to win games.
Yeah.
Right. And complementary football, and then maybe what it grows into long term.
Yeah.
Right?
Sorry. Yes, exactly right.
And that could be two different phases in your mindset is, hey, let's walk before we run, figure out what we're good at, and then push forward later with more balls downfield from Arch.
Yeah.
Is that kind of what you're getting into?
That's exactly what I'm talking about. An old coach once told me life and football are constant struggles deciding between what you want to be and what you need to be. I think early on, they're going to lean on what they need to be because of some of the inexperience and because of the O-line, the lack of continuity there. But as they grow together, more reps, more time together, hopefully everybody stays healthy. I think you'll get that they develop their own identity as an offense. And then we'll start to see what that identity is. But early on, I wouldn't doubt there's a lot of complementary football being played. Still going to Sark will take his shots, and you'll still see the very Sark-esque offensive plays. But I do wonder if they will try a style that will, complement the defense really well.
That's interesting because that sounds like an SEC style, right, Gerry? Where you kind of run before you start throwing downfield.
Yeah, I think a lot of people might want to see Arch throw it 40 times against Ohio State and 12 yards per attempt. I don't think that, to Rod's point, I don't think we're going to see that. Like I think Sark is going to. By the way, I think this game in general is going to be condensed by both offensive coordinators who happen to be head coaches. I know Brian Hartline has the tag, but we know Ryan Day's going to be involved. I think both of these guys, to Rod's point, it's going to be complementary football, leaning on your run game to protect your inexperienced starting quarterbacks and not put those guys in a position to fail as much as possible. And I'm not saying Arch is going to fail, and I'm not saying Sayan's going to fail, but if you put the ball in their hand and they have to throw it 35, 40 times, that's not what either one of these coaches wants against the defenses they're playing.
Nope.
Not early in the season.
Too many negatives can happen in that category, right? I mean, that's the piece that I think is important to remember. The other aspect I would ask of y'all is this: beyond Ohio State, y'all mentioned the strengths in game 6, 7, 8. When we get to OU, is Arch Manning and his ability to the strength of the offense by that time? When is he, in y'all's opinion, potentially going to hit his stride? That because when I think of the Texas offense right now, he is the centerpiece.
Yeah.
Early on, we don't expect him necessarily to, Jerry's point, 40 throws against Ohio State, not the recipe we want for success. When do you think Arch hits that stride? Is it after the 3 non-conference games that follow Ohio State going into Florida? Is it after a Florida and a Oklahoma game that are both going to be somewhat, I mean, those teams both have really good players. You know, when does Arch start to take that next step in this season, in y'all's opinion? Rod, I'll start with you.
That is a good question, especially the way the schedule is set up. I'm going to go, oh, man. I feel like I'm going to go Oklahoma game. He's going to start right around there to hit his peak. And not peak. I would say he's starting to hit his stride. That's when he's really starting to hit his stride as a player. And you start to see a consistent line of that excellence we're talking about, and less of the kind of inconsistent up and down play of any young player. But I think before that, I'm going to say that you see growing pains. I'm going to say you see some drive stall because maybe operational issues, or maybe he had maybe taking too many shots down, maybe wouldn't settle for what the defense is giving them. I think and I'm expecting some of that, and that's fine. But I think by Oklahoma game, which is usually when you want to be hitting your stride anyway in the season, I think that's when you really start to see his value as a player. I'm saying like being the main asset and essentially being the identity of the offense. That's when you start to see a takeover. He is the identity of the offense. No, it's Arch. It's Arch's legs. It's Arch's arm. It's Arch's ability to be able to improvise and to be able to say nothing. When he becomes the identity of the offense, I'm going to say Oklahoma.
What about you, Jerry? You think I think Rod used the term correctly, hit his stride. It's not necessarily that he's going to hit his ceiling, but you're going to start to see that improvement on a consistent level.
And I hadn't really thought about it until you asked the question. And so I'm not saying this to disagree with Rod. I just think Texas may need it at Florida. I think they may need it a week before, depending on DJ Lagway's health and where Florida's at. Because the one thing about Florida is they have at Miami and at LSU before Texas. So they're going to have 2 battle-tested games going into Texas. Texas is going to have 1 at Ohio State and then 3 games, which talent will prevails, right? And then you have the off week. But I think that off week headed into Florida, and it really – the answer to this question could also really come down to who wins the Ohio State game. Because the last thing you want is Bobby's season prediction to come true and be 3-2 headed to OU. You have 0 margin for error. Arch has 0 margin for error as a player against Oklahoma. That's a tough spot to be in the rest of the season.
All right. Before we go to another topic here, I want to say thank you once again to our sponsor of every week's State of the Program is Adam Lowy over at the Lowy Law Firm. If you've been injured in a car wreck, truck wreck, automobile accident of any kind, from ATV to 18-wheeler, make sure you reach out to Adam Lowy and the Lowy Law Firm. Adam's a UT Law School grad. Happy to help you. If you think you might be due compensation, make sure you reach out to Adam and his firm for a free, no strings attached consultation. They'll talk to you and let you know what they think of your case. Again, that is Adam over at LowyLawFirm.com. Thank you, Adam, for your sponsorship of On Texas Football. Hey, guys, piece here. When I first started out, I asked, where is this Texas offense? If we think they're going to be A, do we think that they have an A level upside this year? Do you think that they could end of the year A level upside? Would we agree with that?
Yes.
What about you, Rod? You think they could be an A by the end of the year?
Could they be an elite offense basically by the end of the year? Yes, they could be. Injuries will play a big part in that. And basically, like we said, when does Arch hit his stride? But yeah, they can be an elite offense.
Okay. If we think that, where is this offense today? So is it a C right now? Is it a C minus because of all the turmoil? My question to y'all is, where are we at right now compared to where they can be in game 12?
What concerns me most would be, when does the O-line gel? They need continuity. They need chemistry together to really become a hive-minded unit. And that just takes a while. And O-line, they just, more than any other group, they work in unison as a unit. So that is my concern, is when I think it's more, I trust that Arch is going to hit it. I may be right about the Oklahoma game. He's going to hit his stride.
Yeah.
He will.
It could be Florida, or it could be Mississippi State.
Right. He's going to hit it.
My
concern really is about the O-line and when they hit their stride. Remember last year, guys, you became, very predictable in your run game. The hope is this year that you will have a little bit more diversification, more variety in the run game. That'll help you, I think, be tougher to game plan against for really good run defenses. Ohio State will probably have one of those. The O-line, to me, and then the protection of Arch Manning, right? Protection of your most valued asset. So to me, it's about the O-line. I would say right now they're a top 35 offense.
Yeah.
If I have to rank them, a top 35 offense right now. They have the ability to be a top 10 offense, and that's elite in my category. If you're a top 10 in any category in college football, that's considered elite. I do believe they have that ability to be a top 10 offense.
So you're really starting them off, hey, they're going to be a B minus with the ability to be an A plus.
Yeah, just right now, what we heard, operational issues. Sark's offense very sophisticated in terms of the moving parts prior to the snap. Arch Manning's going to be great at that, but that's still something he's got to master. There's still some little things that Arch has got to figure out too. I think, his ball placement on some of those short, quick throws. Sark even talked about that. Some of the nuances of the offense. There'll be little things that he's got to learn too. There's still chemistry between he and the wide receiver. I think him and Moore and Wingo will have great chemistry. I hear great things about Jack Andrews, but there are just new pieces to the offense. So I'm going to give them time to gel. I'm going to give them some grace. My expectations for the offense are not going to be, man, they got to be elite out of the box. And I think that would be for Longhorn fans out there, I think that would be kind of flawed, logic. It's just that I don't think that's where they're going to start. Doesn't mean that's not where they're going to finish, though.
Yeah, it's not reality.
Yeah.
What do you think, Gerry?
First off, if I said C minus on a video like this, Sark would have me escorted off the premises the next time I'm covering recruiting. So I'm not saying C minus. Okay, that's not where we're going. I will say B minus because look, it's Emmett Mosley was not brought in out of the portal to be on the sidelines. He was brought in to be a starting wide receiver on this team. So on paper, they're missing one of their guys in Parker Livingstone, the four receivers in that rotation, right? Mm-hmm. So they're down a guy that started 9 games in Power 4 football last year that Sark said is better at everything than what even he thought. That's pretty high praise. So then offensive line, the potential injuries there, just, whether it's just missed practice time right now, right? It's missed preparation time. And when you're shuffling guys around, Cole Hudson is your starting center, but he's had to play right guard in practice. He had to play left guard in practice. Mm-hmm. So it's continuity to Rod's point. And then, what is what is Cedric Baxter going to look like games 1, 2, 3, and 4? We talked about when Arch is going to hit his stride. When's CJ going to hit his stride?
Yeah.
Is that going to be at Florida? Because Texas is going to run more gap and power schemes. Who are their guys that are going to run that effectively? I mean, if they're going to accomplish that goal in the run game, and then the other thing is with Arch, they're playing more under center, so that's different for offensive line. That's different for your running backs, your landmarks on handoffs.
Yeah,
there's so many things that they've adjusted within the scheme to fit Arch and his strengths that I do think it takes time. So I think they're a B- right now, and I say B- because Texas defense is so good that it probably makes them look C at times. I'm not sure they're truly C.
Oh, the theory of relativity, basically.
Yeah.
Where if you're comparing two places of
I mean, Colin Simmons and Anthony Hill can make you look like a C.
Yep.
if you don't come to play. Yeah. I agree with that. That's a good point. I think that I would go B- as well. I think that's kind of where I expect my expectations out of the gate. My expectations long term are an A.
Yeah.
Because to Rod's point, I think they got the signal caller. That's number one. I mean, it's very rare going to have a great offense without a great signal caller.
You have future NFL draft picks at every position.
Yeah.
At the skill position too. It's like, so if you start as a B- and end up as a B-, things really didn't go well.
Yeah, I think that's completely fine. I think it's a well way to put it. You think this offense is going to be, I want to finish with this, better this year than last year at the end of the year? I mean, I felt last year they were handicapped in the run game for whatever reason. Didn't really complete many balls downfield for whatever reason. Isaiah Bond nicked up. Even Matthew Golden was nicked up late.
Yeah.
Do you think this offense is better by game 9, 10, 11, 12 and into the playoffs potentially than it was a year ago?
It should be. You brought up some of the issues that they should have upgraded, or at least they should have addressed those issues. The bigger wide receivers. Their wide receivers are just bigger bodies, bigger frames. The working theories that'll help you with deep passes down the field, 50-50 balls, contested catches. Even Moses is great at those, by the way. Ryan Wingo's really good at those too. That's something that'll help you complete. Remember, Sark at one point last year against Georgia, chunking it. Taking those man-to-man situations. Well, bigger wide receivers will help you win some of those. To your point about the run game, and Gerry brought it up, a lot of the time the gap power schemes, because it's just a straight-up blocking scheme, doesn't have the nuances, right, and the complexity of a zone blocking scheme. It usually translates much better for a young offensive line. It's like, now you just block that guy in front of you. So if they're going to run more gap power schemes, that may help the offensive line actually gel a little bit quicker, or at least start to find their confidence in their stride a little bit quicker. And with CJ Baxter and, with some of with Trey Wisner too, maybe they can have more variety and you won't just have one bread and butter concept, the outside zone that you're overly reliant on. So that those two things alone would have changed the entire dynamic of the offense last year. I think those are two things that don't help them this year. So I'm with you. I think they'll be right outside or right on the cusp of being a top 10 offense by the end of the season. That's my guess.
So you think they'll be better? You think they'll be better this year than last year overall?
Yes, because they'll be better in critical areas. I think the red zone and third down, they'll be better in those areas because I think Arch will be better in those situations, especially with his legs and the ability to improvise, extend plays, and be able to execute the scramble drill with some of those bigger wide receivers. So I think they'll be better because they'll be better in key areas. Will they be more explosive? That's hard to say. Texas was the most explosive offense in the country last year, producing 20-yard plus plays.
Gerry, Texas loses Matthew Golden and Kelvin Banks. Those are 2 first-round picks. On paper, you're wondering, hey, how is that possible? But I agree with Rod. Where are you at on it?
So what my thinking is, this is going to be the first time in the Sark era where he gets to bring out his entire scheme of what he ideally wants to do. And I say that because downfield pass, he's going to be able to open up the whole field vertically and horizontally down the field. Deep balls, vertical threat along the boundary outside the numbers. He really hasn't had that the way he wants that at Texas. Arch is the first guy that's going to be able to bring that to him. So then you have, what does that, if Sark has the full field at his disposal, vertically and horizontally, what does that do for the middle of the field for his offense? What does that do for the running backs in his offense? Like, that's where I think they have a chance to be better. Then it's going to come down to offensive line and QB execution. But I do think this is going to be the first time we see Sark with the full football field at his play calling disposal. And that excites me. And we'll see how Arch and the offensive line execute it. But if they execute it, I do think this offense will be better.
So I think my question to both y'all, just point blank, end of the season, better offense or not in 25?
Yeah. Yes. Better.
Yes.
Gerry, I'm a yes. All right. All right, that's going to do it. Where the Texas offense is and where they will be, essentially, in our opinion, in the 2025 season. Thank you to Rod Babers. Thank you to Gerry Hamilton, as well as to our sponsor, Adam Lowy, over at the Lowy Law Firm. And also thank you, special thank you to Matthew, our producer behind the scenes. Guys, y'all have a good one. We'll have more later today. We'll be in Houston tonight around 5 o'clock over at Social Beer Garden. Please come join us. You guys have a good one. Hook 'em.
Hook 'em.